side here. What's up, everybody? Thanks for listening to the beginning of that sizzle over there. Thanks so much for coming. This is really exciting for us. We're Five Brothers Entertainment, and this kind of explanation of why we really wanted to put on this panel was there's a lot that I think a company like ours that we've grown into, but I think every single creator out there does so much from the idea of the inception and idea of a video all the way through what you do when it gets uploaded and you're looking at your feedback from your audience and everything. And so we thought that, you know, we've gone through such an interesting journey of starting out with just the two of us, and then now we have so many more people at the company, and we're able to do it on kind of a more mass scale, that it would be interesting to have a discussion and talk with some of our amazing team that we have here with us of what are we currently doing in a lot of ways as a company week to week with each of our formats, but we'll be very specific in that way. But before I get ahead of myself, let's introduce who we have here, some amazing human beings that I brought for you today. Me personally, I brought them. And so why don't you introduce yourselves? Started with my brother, who's pretty much just me, but he can now talk.
I'm the other one. I'm older, but everyone thinks Rafi's older, but I'm older. But yeah, to echo what Rafi said, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, though it'll be focused a little bit on how we do things now, it all started from a place of how we were doing things when there wasn't a company, and we've then been able to take those same things that we used to do then and then turn it into what you then see to get us to so many videos that it's like almost impossible to keep up with, and it kind of blows our mind that we actually are at this point. And a lot of people coming up with this was like, how did we get to this point, and how can other people kind of see where we started from, where we are now, and then apply it to what you're creating. Two of the team members that are been instrumental in helping us get to this point are right up here, so they should take it away.
Hey guys, my name is Vince. I've been with the company for over 5 years now. Started back in 2011 or 12, my math is correct. And I'm a producer who oversees a lot of the videos that we produce and release on the React channel.
Hello, I'm Nick Berthel. I'm the head of post-production. I've been with the company about 3 years, and I think when I started there was 14 people in the company, and now today we're at almost 65, so I've been there for kind of the growth that we've had in the past couple of years, but I'll be talking a little bit about how we do the post-production side of stuff for you.
Cool. And so to start off, because there are kind of a lot of things that we do at the company, just generally we're going to show our sizzle here. So you get a little hint, and especially if for some reason you don't know who we are, it's totally possible. You can see some of the things that we're up to and what we're working on, some of which is on YouTube, some of which has been the television shows and such that we've done as well.
Julie, you are under arrest.
God damn it!
This season, 60 Days of Everything.
You're an idiot because I don't really care about this stuff.
You won't know what it is.
Yeah, so you can see we do a lot of different stuff, from scripted to animated to non-scripted to long form to short form, but we're going to focus this conversation a lot more on what we assume is what a lot of you guys do and what we primarily still do at the company, which is the YouTube formats, the things that you need to keep to a certain size and certain budget, and how do you do all that and sustain and grow from it with the realities of even when you're as large as we are, the ad rates are the same and just as horrible. So we'll be focusing on that type of content to be smart about the resources you have and how to create your content in a more efficient way.
I will jump in with the audience participation moment. Just to get an idea of kind of you guys a little bit, I'd like to ask a couple questions and see a show of hands. How many of you already released a video a week online? Oh,
Wow, very cool.
how many people release up to 5 videos a week to daily videos? Cool.
Oh, dang.
How many of you guys work solo? Okay. And then how many have a team of 2 or more? Okay, cool. Great.
Okay, so even with those of you that are by yourself, this is still applicable, despite us talking a lot about the teams that we've kind of built out. Because everything that has been built, like I was alluding to before, came from a place of when we were completely by ourselves. We were lucky because there were 2 of us, and I remember back then how hard it was, even being 2 of us, and saying, this is impossible, this is so hard. Then we became part of the YouTube community, and they said, oh my God, there's 2 of you. You're so lucky, there's 2 of you.
Lots of duos have found success on YouTube.
Yeah.
It helps. But just generally, what we're going to be working through now is we're going to be going through, in a lot of ways, this idea of what the video life cycle is and that applies to anybody, and very much as a company, what we have built out to really see what are we all doing. Because in a way, you might not realize it, and you're doing all of these steps. You're not necessarily putting them into a system for yourself to really figure out how to be the most efficient and start to understand what goes into each piece for your own shows and your own videos. And so we'll be walking through what is pretty much this, that in all regards you're going to hear us go through it, but in a lot of ways too, we would suggest that you maybe write this down and take a screenshot. I see some people taking screenshots very nice. Of these kinds of things of what are you going to be filling out or thinking about in this workshop when it comes to your own show, when we're talking about what we're going through, what are you doing with all of your stuff? And then, I don't know if we said that what we're trying to do, we're trying to get through this part of the presentation in 30 minutes so that we can take 30 minutes of questions, because definitely want to be able to hear some of the things that you guys are going through and specific problems you might be considering or questions you have about how we presented some stuff.
So that's the thing, when you look at this, it seems like, go back for a second, when you look at this, it feels like, look at all this stuff we have to do. But again, if you really break it down, if you're making videos, you're doing all of this. This is technically the process, and I think it's important if you don't really view it this way, that's where you can run into issues with missing a deadline or starting to burn out because you're not kind of thinking about it from the levels of what are all the things I need to do to accomplish the video, and then what is the most efficient way for me to actually accomplish the video. So that's kind of where this came from. So this is like a little snapshot. We're not going to go into detail here.
We love Google Calendars.
We do. Google Calendars are my favorite thing in life, but unfortunately I write them so fast that everyone says, I don't understand anything on your Google Calendar. I'm like, but it makes sense.
To Benny, and that's all that matters.
But this is just a small little bit. This is looking at very specifically what we call at the company the OG, which is the original reaction formats. Kids react, teens react, elders react, of kind of how the process goes in terms of prep and what a work week looks like for our producers, one of which is over there, one of the OG producers, Ethan, over there. So you see, on Sundays and Wednesdays now is when we film. So we'll film 3 episodes, sometimes 4 on those days. But then to get there quickly through, this is kind of a snapshot of part of that checklist that you saw before, in terms of there's multiple things going on every day. There's a shoot day, then there's prepping and pitching things that are going to come out after that while you're sitting with editors. So everything's kind of at the same time to then get through to shoot 6 videos a week for the OG formats that get shot every single week. But this is kind of just a small little snapshot of this is how much is going on just for that show.
Yeah, so we're going to be focusing mostly on the OG and gaming. We'll be speaking to those. So a lot of this type of event, shows that we've created, and you end up seeing very similar blueprints that go into Do They Know It, or into Our People versus Food, into Lyric Breakdown. The various things kind of follow similar blueprints inside of this ecosystem versus if we were going to do an animated project versus if we were going to do a television project. And this is, I think, as similar to what you might be going through as well. So
it's also our most topical show, so that's why, on Mondays we're what's trending, what's going on, and then we pick everything and prep it all on Tuesday to film on Wednesday, then you can see on Friday, we've already prepped what we're going to film on Sunday, but something could have happened on Friday, so then there's time on Friday to think about, do we want to change, and you need to figure it out because of how topical the show is.
Okay, jumping over to research.
Research is so much fun for me because it means I get to watch videos all day, but aside from that, there's a lot of other things that are really important about it, especially when it comes to the idea of being topical. So we utilize at the company a lot of different resources to be able to pool what it is the potential world wants to see, what our audience wants to see, and content that we'd like to make. A lot of different things we utilize. Up in the top left, subscriptions, we like to, in regards to gaming specifically, we have special YouTube accounts that are just dedicated to being subscribed to the top gaming YouTubers. That could be news, that could be Let's Plays, just to be able to stay relevant and do a quick shot of the internet and see what are people talking about right now. Other things down below we use for, this is actually a comment doc that we use, that we utilize, where it's all suggestions from the community comments on YouTube, and we're able to actually see, okay, cool, what are people asking for? How often are they asking for it? You know, we track those things. If we get 100 comments for stuff and all of them have 100 thumbs up on it, we know that's popular.
We got Kendrick Lamar and Malibu. We'll see if people start getting angry.
We're not going to do Malibu, I don't think. I think we missed the window.
All right, missed the window.
Yeah, next video.
Sorry, 150 people and 160 people that left comments.
We also utilize a lot of websites. Similar to the way that we have the YouTube subscriptions, we utilize the websites to be able to see what are people talking about. And we create docs that we utilize on a regular basis to be able to check in and know that, like, okay, cool, we're hitting all the ones that we know are the go-to sites. Other things are personal accounts, just organic browsing that you'll search on the internet, and we also OG research links, those are the websites we use. And then just general, you know, checking your social accounts. Something that we see a lot of people use a lot is even just asking your audience, like, hey, what do you guys want to see? And having that one-to-one connection is great, just even on a promotional basis for yourself, even just to know, okay, what do my subscribers want to see? And right this instant, because they are all waiting to see your tweets.
Yeah, one specific thing even that some people utilize, but it's kind of hidden inside of YouTube a little bit, is when you do go to your community setting and then you go to the comments there, and it actually gives you every single comment coming in from across your entire channel, and there's a search function there that whenever we're considering doing anything for any of the shows, it's one of the best pressure tests of seeing automatically, okay, how many people have left this comment in the past hour, in the past day and week. I know I'm going. It's like that extra little way to be able to see what your audience is speaking to. But it's also glitchy, so you definitely have to, sometimes you'll like type something in and you'll think, oh, it's blank, what happened? And it's not actually, it's just that it doesn't function perfectly, so you have to hit it a couple times. But we utilize that a lot. And also Google, if you see on there on OG Weekly Links, there's different types of things of like websites that people like seeing if things that we're finding, are they finding similar things too? Is this really viral? You're seeing even like looking at YouTube trend in the US and as well as switching to other countries, because the US one is kind of like an overall, but then you're able to see what's going on possibly in other countries. And actually the US overall is the one that's kind of the one that's like, are they putting things there? Like, is it really the trending page? While the other ones do give you a better snapshot on other countries of like basically what's most viewed on YouTube in different ways. There's even ways to go on YouTube and see what's like the most viewed. I don't know if people know how to do that, where you type YouTube into YouTube, and then you switch it to the day, and then you switch it to most viewed, and then you actually can see what's the most viewed things on YouTube. But they don't
search YouTube on YouTube.
Yeah, search YouTube on YouTube.
And then switch to two different things. So easy to find the top viewed videos of the day. They make it so easy. But with all of this, you can apply it to anything you're doing. Even if you daily vlog or you make a sketch or like whatever your format or channel can be about. This is very specific, obviously, because we're trending news in a lot of ways, but it's the same type of thing, especially when you're smaller, when you're thinking about what's going to help me grow my audience, which I feel like everybody's always thinking about, and that is like topicality, trending things. If you're completely in a vacuum and not paying attention to the things that people are looking for and searching for across YouTube, it's harder for you to stand out and find that way. And not everything's going to become fidget spinners on YouTube, where it's very easy to see, and then you've got to make a fidget spinner video. But you can find other things you're like, oh, this is something interesting that might be trending out in the internet because I'm checking all these sites or I'm subscribed to these channels, and then you can help tailor for the sake of search engine optimization or really video type stuff to realize I should maybe make a vlog about this specific topic because it seems to be something that a lot of people are interested in.
Including creativity, just of like seeing what's going on, you know, helps. Definitely brainstorming for a lot of us at the company and our producers is by seeing what's going on and what's around, it only helps you to then have one of those easy ways to like be doing brainstorming.
Yeah. What's up, everybody?
Thanks for listening to the beginning of that sizzle over there. Thanks so much for coming. This is really exciting for us. We're Five Brothers Entertainment, and this kind of explanation of why we really wanted to put on this panel was there's a lot that I think a company like ours that we've grown into, but I think every single creator out there does so much from the idea of the inception and idea of a video all the way through what you do when it gets uploaded and you're looking at your feedback from your audience and everything. And so we thought that, you know, we've gone through such an interesting journey of starting out with just the two of us, and then now we have so many more people at the company, and we're able to do it on kind of a more mass scale, that it would be interesting to have a discussion and talk with some of our amazing team that we have here with us of what are we currently doing in a lot of ways as a company week to week with each of our formats, but we'll be very specific in that way. But before I get ahead of myself, let's introduce who we have here, some amazing human beings that I brought for you today. Me personally, I brought them. So why don't you introduce yourselves? Starting with my brother, who's pretty much just me, but he can now talk.
I'm the other one. I'm older, but everyone thinks Rafi's older, but I'm older. But yeah, to echo what Rafi said, a lot of what we're going to be talking about today, though it'll be focused a little bit on how we do things now, it all started from a place of how we were doing things when there wasn't a company, and we've then been able to take those same things that we used to do then and then turn it into what you then see to get us to so many videos that it's like almost impossible to keep up with, and it kind of blows our mind that we actually are at this point. And a lot of even coming up with this was like, how did we get to this point, and how can other people kind of see where we started from, where we are now, and then apply it to what you're creating. Two of the team members that are been instrumental in helping us get to this point are right up here, so they should take it away.
Hey guys, my name is Vince. I've been with the company for over 5 years now. Started back in 2011 or 12, my math is correct. And I'm a producer who oversees a lot of the videos that we produce and release on the React channel.
Hello, I'm Nick Berthold. I'm the head of post-production. I've been with the company about 3 years, and I think when I started there was 14 people in the company, and now today we're at almost 65, so I've been there for kind of the growth that we've had in the past couple of years, but I'll be talking a little bit about how we do the post-production side of stuff for you.
Cool. And so to start off, because there are kind of a lot of things that we do at the company, just generally we're going to show our sizzle here. So you get a little hint, and especially if for some reason you don't know who we are, it's totally possible. You can see some of the things that we're up to and what we're working on, some of which is on YouTube, some of which has been the television shows and such that we've done as well.
I do not believe I put these things in my mouth. I don't even put my husband's in my mouth.
Julie, you are under arrest.
God damn it!
This season, 60 Days of Everything.
You're an idiot because I don't really care about this stuff. You won't know what it is.
Bye, Felicia.
Yeah, so you can see we do a lot of different stuff, from scripted to animated to non-scripted to long form to short form, but we're going to focus this conversation a lot more on what we assume is what a lot of you guys do and what we primarily still do at the company, which is the YouTube formats, the things that you need to keep to a certain size and certain budget, and how do you do all that and sustain and grow from it with the realities of, even when you're as large as we are, the ad rates are the same and just as horrible. So we'll be focusing on that type of content, to be smart about the resources you have and how to create your content in a more efficient way.
I will jump in with the audience participation moment, just to get an idea of kind of you guys a little bit. I'd like to ask a couple questions and see a show of hands. How many of you already released a video a week online? Oh,
Wow, very cool.
How many people release up to 5 videos a week to daily videos? Cool.
Oh, damn.
How many of you guys work solo? Okay. And then how many have a team of 2 or more? Okay, cool.
Okay, so even with those of you that are by yourself, this is still applicable, despite us talking a lot about the teams that we've kind of built out. Because everything that has been built, like I was alluding to before, came from a place of when we were completely by ourselves. We were lucky because there were 2 of us, and I remember back then how hard it was, even being 2 of us, and saying, this is impossible, this is so hard. Then we became part of the YouTube community, and they said, oh my God, there's 2 of you. You're so lucky, there's 2 of you. So
lots of duos have found success on YouTube.
Yeah,
it helps. But just generally, what we're going to be working through now is we're going to be going through, in a lot of ways, this idea of what the video life cycle is, and that applies to anybody, and very much as a company what we have built out to really see what are we all doing. Because in a way, you might not realize it, and you're doing all of these steps. You're not necessarily putting them into a system for yourself to really figure out how to be the most efficient and start to understand what goes into each piece for your own shows and your own videos. And so we'll be walking through what is pretty much this, that in all regards you're going to hear us go through it, but in a lot of ways too, we would suggest that you maybe write this down and take a screenshot. I see some people taking screenshots right now. Of these kinds of things of what are you going to be filling out or thinking about in this workshop when it comes to your own show, when we're talking about what we're going through, what are you doing with all of your stuff? And then, I don't know if we said that what we're trying to do, we're trying to get through this part of the presentation in 30 minutes so that we can take 30 minutes of questions, because definitely want to be able to hear some of the things that you guys are going through and specific problems you might be considering or questions you have about how we presented some stuff.
So that's the thing, when you look at this, it seems like, go back for a second, when you look at this, it feels like, look at all this stuff we have to do. But again, if you really break it down, if you're making videos, you're doing all of this. This is technically the process, and I think it's important if you don't really view it this way, that's where you can run into issues with missing a deadline or starting to burn out because you're not kind of thinking about it from the levels of what are all the things I need to do to accomplish the video, and then what is the most efficient way for me to actually accomplish the video. So that's kind of where this came from. So this is a little snapshot. We're not going to go into detail here.
We love Google Calendars.
We do. Google Calendars are my favorite thing in life, but unfortunately I write them so fast that everyone says, I don't understand anything on your Google Calendar. I'm like, but it makes sense.
To Benny, and that's all that matters.
But this is just a small little bit. This is looking at very specifically what we call at the company the OG, which is the original reaction formats. Kids react, teens react, elders react, of kind of how the process goes in terms of prep and what a work week looks like for our producers, one of which is over there, one of the OG producers, Ethan, over there. So you see, on Sundays and Wednesdays now is when we film. So we'll film 3 episodes, sometimes 4 on those days. But then to get there quickly through, this is kind of a snapshot of part of that checklist that you saw before, in terms of there's multiple things going on every day. There's a shoot day, then there's prepping and pitching things that are going to come out after that while you're sitting with editors. So everything's kind of at the same time to then get through to shoot 6 videos a week for the OG formats that get shot every single week. But this is kind of just a small little snapshot of this is how much is going on just for that show.
Yeah, so we're going to be focusing mostly on the OG and gaming. We'll be speaking to those. So a lot of this type of shows that we've created, and you end up seeing very similar blueprints that go into Do they know it? Or into our people versus food, into lyric breakdown. The various things kind of follow similar blueprints inside of this ecosystem versus if we were going to do an animated project versus if we were going to do a television project. And this is, I think, as similar to what you might be going through as well.
Because,
so
it's also our most topical show, so that's why, like, you know, on Mondays we're like, what's trending, what's going on, and then we pick everything and prep it all on Tuesday to film on Wednesday. Then you can see on Friday we've already prepped what we're going to film on Sunday, but something could have happened on Friday, so then there's time on Friday to think about, do we want to change? You need to figure it out because of how topical the show is.
Okay, jumping over to research.
Research is so much fun for me because it means I get to watch videos all day, but aside from that, there's a lot of other things that are really important about it, especially when it comes to the idea of being topical. So we utilize at the company a lot of different resources to be able to pool what it is the potential world wants to see, what our audience wants to see, and content that we'd like to make. A lot of different things we utilize. Up in the top left, subscriptions, we like to, in regards to gaming specifically, we have special YouTube accounts that are just dedicated to being subscribed to the top gaming YouTubers. That could be news, that could be Let's Plays, just to be able to stay relevant and do a quick shot of the internet and see what are people talking about right now. Other things down below we use for, this is actually a comment doc that we use, that we utilize, where it's all suggestions from the community comments on YouTube, and we're able to actually see, okay, cool, what are people asking for? How often are they asking for it? You know, we track those things. If we get 100 comments for stuff and all of them have 100 thumbs up on it, we know that's popular.
We got Kendrick Lamar and Malibu. We'll see if people start getting angry.
We're not going to do Malibu, I don't think. I think we missed the window.
All right, missed the window.
Yeah, next video.
Sorry, 150 people and 160 people that left comments.
We also utilize a lot of websites. Similar to the way that we have the YouTube subscriptions, we utilize the websites to be able to see what are people talking about. And we create docs that we utilize on a regular basis to be able to check in and know that, like, okay, cool, we're hitting all the ones that we know are the go-to sites. Other things are personal accounts, just organic browsing that you'll search on the internet, and we also OG research links, those are the websites we use. And then just general, you know, checking your social accounts. Something that we see a lot of people use a lot is even just asking your audience, like, hey, what do you guys want to see? And having that one-to-one connection is great, just even on a promotional basis for yourself, but even just to know, okay, what do my subscribers want to see? And right this instant, because they are all waiting to see your tweets.
Yeah, one specific thing even that some people utilize, but it's kind of hidden inside of YouTube a little bit, is when you do go to your community setting and then you go to the comments there, and it actually gives you every single comment coming in from across your entire channel, and there's a search function there that whenever we're considering doing anything for any of the shows, it's one of the best pressure tests of seeing automatically, okay, how many people have left this comment in the past hour, in the past day and week. I know I'm going. It's like that extra little way to be able to see what your audience is speaking to. But it's also glitchy, so you definitely have to, sometimes you'll like type something in and you'll think, oh, it's blank, what happened? And it's not actually, it's just that it doesn't function perfectly, so you have to hit it a couple times. But we utilize that a lot. And also Google, if you see on there on OG Weekly Links, there's different types of things of like websites that people like seeing if things that we're finding, are they finding similar things too? Is this really viral? You're seeing either like looking at YouTube trend in the US and as well as switching to other countries, because the US one is kind of like an overall, but then you're able to see what's going on possibly in other countries. And actually the US overall is the one that's kind of the one that's like, are they putting things there? Like, is it really the trending page? While the other ones do give you a better snapshot on other countries of like basically what's most viewed on YouTube in different ways. There's even ways to go on YouTube and see what's like the most viewed. I don't know if people know how to do that, where you type YouTube into YouTube, and then you switch it to the day, and then you switch it to most viewed, and then you actually can see what's the most viewed things on YouTube. But they don't
search YouTube on YouTube.
That's right. Search YouTube on YouTube.
And then switch to two different things. So easy to find the top few videos of the day. They make it so easy. But with all of this, you can apply it to anything you're doing. Even if you daily vlog or you make a sketch or like whatever your format or channel can be about. This is very specific, obviously, because we're trending news in a lot of ways, but it's the same type of thing, especially when you're smaller, when you're thinking about what's going to help me grow my audience, which I feel like everybody's always thinking about, and that is like topicality, trending things. If you're completely in a vacuum and not paying attention to the things that people are looking for and searching for across YouTube, it's harder for you to stand out and find that way. And not everything's going to become fidget spinners on YouTube, where it's very easy to see, and then you've got to make a fidget spinner video. But you can find other things you're like, oh, this is something interesting that might be trending out in the internet because I'm checking all these sites or I'm subscribed to these channels, and then you can help tailor for the sake of search engine optimization or really video type stuff to realize I should maybe make a vlog about this specific topic because it seems to be something that a lot of people are interested in.
Including creativity, just of like seeing what's going on, you know, helps. Definitely brainstorming for a lot of us at the company and our producers is by seeing what's going on and what's around, it only helps you to then have, one of those easy ways to like be doing brainstorming in your own head of like what else could we be thinking about, what else could we be doing, is kind of being able to really see what's working around the web. Moving on to pitches.
Yeah, so there's a whole process inside of that again, even if you're on your own, there's still the idea that you're pitching yourself. Like, what do I want to do this week?
Yes, I like that idea. Good job, me.
But it's to the point now where there's like the system, like on the slide before about the calendar, like there's time set aside for producers to kind of do this research, come up with it, and then build out like, well, why should we be covering this? For things like the OG format, we are not usually looking for something that is very one note. If everyone's going to have the same opinion about something, that's not necessarily going to work for Teens React. We want there to be something that is not necessarily polarizing, but is a type of thing that can have multiple opinions, and that's kind of what makes the show work. So the pitch will be like included a paragraph about like, why do you think this is going to work? What's the different conversations people are having about it? What do we know about it? There's also a little area of like, is this being requested? Like Rafi was talking about. So there's also that extraness. And then there's a script. Now the script is important. And I'm sure some of you have this experience of like, you know what you kind of want to do and you don't really want to script it out, so you kind of just go for it and you don't realize it, and like 2 hours have gone by and you have like nothing. So the script, especially with the amount of people we're filming with and how specific we have to be to not just have a senior citizen and go on this great conversation about the last 50 years about whatever thing we all want to talk about, is to make sure that you're set to know, well, what are we talking about, and are we hitting all the beats that we need to hit to actually make a piece of content that's going to work? If you watch a lot of Kids React and Teens React, you might even realize, or maybe you don't because it's kind of seamless, there is kind of a formula even to the way every single episode works, where it is going to be like, we're going to show the video, yes, then we're going to talk about, did you like this, or something along those lines, but then every episode of OG, all 1,000 of them, however many there are, there's then the offshoot question that we call it, and that's also an important part of like, what else are we going to talk about because of this episode? So a recent episode was, we did Adults React to Despacito, and then we talked about the actual song, but then it also was using it as an opportunity to talk about how interesting that there's a foreign language song getting so big in the US, and let's talk about how social media has impacted that, and that became a conversation. Or we did Teens React, and then another episode of Parents React to 13 Reasons Why, the Netflix series, which we talked about the show itself, but then it was primarily being used to talk to teenagers about, hey, how is this depicting teens? You're a teen, how do you feel about that? And that all is broken down inside of scripts.
And it's real simple. We React could be YT. We take the year, so if we shot it in 2017, it's 1.7. And then just what is the sequential number? If that was the 10th episode we shot that year, it's 10. So YT 1710. We do that for literally every single thing that we film in the company, and that allows us to take 100 episodes and very quickly communicate about which one we're working on and which one's going live and stuff like that.
Cool. Okay, so one of the big things that you're going to end up doing is getting ready for your upload, and you're going to be making sure you have all the prep of like, what's your title, what's your thumbnail, like imagining what's going to be those best practices and optimize for those things and learning those things, using analytics to learn those things. But what we have always believed in, and we've been finally been putting into practice very recently at the company, is that when Benny and I were just starting, we started realizing just how important it was when you're just, you know, yourself, and you're basically building your own television show, but you don't have a marketing team, you don't have an analytics team, you don't have all the feedback that they have teams to do that. And usually a producer or a showrunner of a show, and that's pretty much what you all are for all of your content, you finish it and you're just like, peace. I don't have to worry about what everybody said about it, and I'm gonna just keep going on to the next show, and I don't need to worry. That's not what we all do, right? We all look at comments and we see the feedback and we're seeing how it's doing, and we're trying to imagine how to help it get better, and did I make a mistake? Are the comments saying that there's something wrong in it, et cetera, et cetera. So we've ended up instituting this final leg of what we believe a producer needs to be doing. Is you're not just researching and being a part of that. You're not just in production. You're not just in post. You're also during the live coverage and the release of that episode is part of what the new way of producing is, and that is the future of what this is all going to be. Even we believe for television shows on down is that you have to understand what the audience is saying and how you use that feedback. So we've ended up building out things. You see a little glimpse of it up there, of a checklist of what we have. Whoever was the producer of that episode. During the first half hour of that going live, we do have a social team that's also in there and getting the video up and stuff, but the producer is focused on checking various things about that episode, and the main things that they're looking for, other than doing a quick check on various things that maybe went wrong as a final look, is there negativity? Is there something that wasn't noticed, some backlash happening that you want to try to reply to some comments for, or you want to end up putting something into your pinned comment to make a mention of oh yeah, you know what, we made a mistake there. And the other is underperformance. If you know how many views you tend to get on your content and all of a sudden you're getting something that's not performing that well, it might just be that you chose the wrong topic, who knows, it's just not going to do well. But YouTube has its analytics page, and it is fucking amazing if you're not utilizing it. And the main thing that we utilize it for when we're in that first 30 minutes is the minute by minute. It's called real-time views. It literally tells you by the minute what's going on. And with the data that we do and everything that we've broken down, and I could spend an entire hour talking about this, but I'm not going to, I'm sorry. We understand within the first 20 to 30 minutes if a video is going to get 100,000 views or 1 million views over the next week, even over the next day. We'll know if it's going to get 500,000 views, we know it's going to get 1 million. And it all stems from understanding how that minute-by-minute graph tends to work in YouTube. And even just last week, it shifted a little bit of how it works and how it reports back the data to you. And if you stay on top of these things, you really can have these moments where you can go, okay, you know what, this is underperforming per minute. What I usually get is only it's getting half what I would expect from this. Now is the time to make the title change. Now is the time to make a thumbnail change. And one example, and we have a lot of these that we send around at the company, is when we decide to make a title or thumbnail change, you literally can see right at this moment where a thumbnail change was happened, and literally...
I think it was a title change on this one, wasn't it? Really? Because the YouTubers reacted how it was a title.
No.
No? Oh, sorry. Okay.
That literally, the minute when you change that and you hit save, that next minute, it already shows you that it went up a little bit. In the minute that you changed it. So you automatically start understanding, is it working or not? And we've had now so many examples where we had one, I think 2 weeks ago, where even putting an exclamation point, because you were like, oh God, this one's really underperforming, throw an exclamation point on there, I don't know. And it went up 200 views a minute. Wow. Now, are you going to put exclamation points at the end of every single one of your videos? I don't know. But it's more of you maybe don't need to do that. It's bigger changes to see, you know what, it's just not working. Why not just try the change? And it's been amazing to have all of this feedback and really suggest doing that. Anything else?
No. All right, thanks. We should kind of roll through.
Yeah.
But okay, so in terms of promotion, so there's the obvious stuff, right? You're gonna want to utilize different social networks to try to point back to YouTube. So things like Twitter and Instagram. You don't really want to use Facebook to put a YouTube link if the messaging over the last couple of years hasn't got across to you. If you ever post the YouTube link to Facebook, even if you just do a text post with the link, Facebook algorithm will crush it and it will go to nobody because they don't want anybody leaving their website. So on Facebook, if you're going to use Facebook, and there's two things I'll say about that, is either one, you're going to want to do some type of a clip cut down so you can natively upload a clip to Facebook and then say in your post, but again, not using the YouTube link, go to my YouTube channel, no link, to watch the full episode, or upload the whole thing to Facebook, which we are now heavily encouraging everybody to start doing. A lot of even bigger YouTubers I've been talking to over VidCon, when I tell them that, they go but then people are going to not go to my YouTube and I'm not monetizing on Facebook, and the industry is really evolving, and there's different audiences on these platforms at this point, and Facebook is the only true, and competitor is the wrong word, but the only other thing I've seen in years and years and years of doing this that has legitimate viewership and is going to be something else besides YouTube is going to be Facebook video.
And even if you're struggling like on YouTube, you never know, you might blow up on Facebook.
And that's the other thing too. Even more so, especially if you're smaller, like there's no reason not to. If like YouTube's doing okay or you're just starting out, you never know. Maybe you're going to make it big on Facebook and not on YouTube, which happens all the time for people now. So it definitely should be part of your strategy to just upload the same video, change your aspect, some of your tech specs like Nick was talking about, but have a Facebook strategy. It's very important. But beyond that, there's also other things you can do. And this doesn't apply to all types of content. It depends on what you're making. But there still is grassroots marketing across the blogs of the internet. It's not as large as it used to be because YouTube and Facebook have become places where most people go to watch video and they're not necessarily going to discover video at Huffington Post as much as they used to.
Back in the day, we would have like 20,000 subscribers, but we'd still get 500,000 views on something because it was a very different place online to get views on.
But we still do marketing like that. And the best example of that of recent times is we've been doing a lot of kids reacting to older music, like kids react to AC/DC or kids react to Guns N' Roses, and with that, all of the music blogs post those episodes, and there's like dozens of them, and there's a bit of a spike in viewership that to us is minimal but still substantial, but we're finding new fans that way, even us. Discovery is really hard on YouTube, and that helps. But if you're smaller and you're building something that is music-based, and the audience isn't finding it on YouTube, and suddenly you're out there on the other blogs, that could be 10,000 views that are now on your YouTube channel. It helps you index better inside of YouTube search, etc. So that's why topicality, picking things that maybe there are audiences and communities out there for, is always smart to be thinking about, oh, can I come up with something that I could also market to a subset of blogs across the internet? And they get excited about that. There's some journalists that I've been literally emailing for over 10 years now that have featured content from us for a very long time because they're also needing and looking for these things. So marketing is not something a lot of YouTubers tend to do in this way, but we still highly recommend it. We wouldn't have been able to get to where we are if we didn't spend a lot of time doing that when we weren't popular. And part of Kids React's early success, if you do a search for the first Kids React, you'll see so many blogs that posted that episode that was part of it becoming successful.
And last thing is, we kind of touched on it, but you have that kind of after the fact moment with your content that you're really going to want to just take that step back and look back over how that episode did, not just in the first 30 minutes like I was talking about. You want to see, okay, it's been a week or whatever. You want to start analyzing yourself, the types of things your audience was saying to you, the types of viewership it got, the types of likes and comments it got, so that it then helps you translate that into what you're going to be doing in the future. And so we have a lot of spreadsheets and things that kind of dive into this stuff, and it like pulls information from the YouTube API to like give us this information, and we do a lot of it manually too. But you can easily just go to your video itself and just see how to do.
Compared to the last one you're on.
Yeah, and so that you start even having that understanding really again around like what's underperformance, what's working, what's not, and helping you to guide what you might want to change with your content ongoing.
And keep track of that stuff so you can always go back and reference it, because you might just not realize that like something is performing the same way as the past video you did, and then you realize, oh man, this will turn out in a week to get like this 1 million views based off of a previous video that performed equally the same.
And in success, if you become really popular and you start communicating with YouTube, very valuable information, because YouTube always will like to say things like, that's not happening, and you can be like, well, here's my data for the last year that shows that something's wrong with my channel, and then you have a bigger leg to stand on if you get to the point where you are talking to YouTube and they can't easily dismiss it because you have numbers to prove.
We've had many of those conversations. Okay, so let's take some questions. I think there was one that yelled down the middle, and we'll still take it first. And then you cheated. We're going to let it happen anyways.
Oh no, it's a quick question because I have a cracked phone, so I can't make out what's actually the words on the screen. Can you make these images that go elsewhere after this by chance?
Yes. How can we get that to all of you?
Your email. Address.
On the website? We can, but what specific link can we give? Like even, we could create it. 5%.com/
VidCon?
VidCon. Look at this collaboration, guys. This is amazing.
Give us a week, but we'll.
Yeah.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah.
Thank you. I know this might be related, but I just want to know if you can list the sources of your income?
Oh, sure. And that's the thing. It doesn't take very long to do that, which is a problem. You need to diversify your income. But for the most part, it's YouTube AdSense, brand integrations, and then television income is kind of the third leg right now. We're starting to look into things like, we have thousands of videos now, so we're looking into windowing and licensing kind of our large library now. That might be a new source of income. We just launched merch for the first time. As long as you've been around, there never was merch, and we only just started it here because we had a booth at VidCon, so we're going to see what that might do. But we're trying to find ways to diversify. But the primary sources, it's AdSense and brand deals at the top. And then when we're lucky enough to actually get a TV show, that brings in a small amount compared to YouTube at this point, but it's still that's how we're able to have a company.
Cool. Or you? Or, oh, you're back there. Go for it. He's just going for it. Pick one.
Sorry about that. I'm wondering if you guys take into account reshoots, or if there's just times you're like, okay, that just screwed up. We can't use any of that.
In terms of content?
Yeah, like when you're or like, do you ever call that people back?
Okay, very rarely. We're kind of sticklers for this type of thing. If we spent the time to shoot it, it's going to go online. There's been a few exceptions that has happened where it's like, this just does not work, or not enough people understood the subject matter and we just knew it wasn't worth it. But for the most part, our prep has been built in such a way that with pretty high accuracy, it's never fully resulted in not being able to put it up on the non-scripted side. On the scripted side of things we do, that's where sometimes it'll happen in a scripting phase. Usually we won't get to the point where we have filmed it and we realize this is terrible. It's much more of realizing, we think this is great, we're working on the script, we're planning to shoot it, and then we start realizing this is not going to work, or we couldn't get the right person on board, and we'll scrap something that is scripted more often than non-scripted. But I don't think it's a terrible thing to scrap something, and that even adds into, are you filming more than one thing in a day? Because maybe one of those just didn't work, but you're not now having to stay up all night for 3 straight days to get your video out every week. But preparation will help avoid that from happening.
Go for it. I trust you.
So, on your channel, when you do the React series, you have everything from, reacting to pop culture to reacting to technology, as well as reacting to controversial topics. And on that note, how do you decide what, this is when we're going to post about, the react to pop culture. This is when we're going to post about, reacting to technology, and, the controversial stuff. Especially when it comes to controversial, do you have that discussion with your team of, is this something we want to post, and what kind of reaction will we get from our audience if we do post it?
Yeah, I'd say that for the most part, a lot of the idea just generally away from controversial is like what's trending, what are the conversations that are happening, or sometimes it's even finding something that isn't gigantic, but it's some interesting.
We find it interesting from another country or something.
Yeah, we would help bring it to the audience more than we've seen it being suggested, but for the most part, suggestions from the audience to really see. So it's every week it becomes a new pitch cycle of what's the most interesting things that are going on right now. Controversial topics are very difficult to pick. One of the things that it really ends up having a case into, at least with that series, is we do look for something that makes sense, that you're able to react to, that allows for it to not just be that we're just going to start talking. The show is not just about talking. So that's one element, is like, is there a way to cover this that makes sense for the format, so that the audience won't be like, why are you doing that? And versus it being something that was inside, that was going viral about that topic. There was a viral video around that topic. And then generally, at least for where we are right now, versus maybe some thoughts for the future of being able to do a lot more content. Right now, we pick and we're careful how often we do something that's a controversial topic, because I think from the audience perspective, what are we going to become? Are we going to become the news that's just talking about, like, awful things happening in the world all the time? It's like, no, the show is an entertaining show, but we want to utilize that reach and that impact that it's been able to have to find the right things at the right moments to try to cover those right topics, which has been, it's pretty amazing. Like, it's always kind of putting yourself out there. It's not easy to make that decision of which one are you going to do. And there's been some things that have passed that have been like, man, we wish we would have covered that, but now we don't know. We can go backtrack to it. So we always are looking at every topic in that way.
Speaking on the reactional side of it, when we do have like the kind of schedule of shows that we're coming out, like every week we have like the music show and every week is the food show. We have the catalog of research that we kind of do, and if we find something that we're just like, man, there's nothing really topical that's hitting, we have that catalog of evergreen ideas that we kind of have in our back pocket that if we're just like, man, there's nothing really hitting right now, there's no crazy unicorn Starbucks drink to taste, like let's go back and do that food challenge that we constantly get requests for, because our audience will enjoy it, and we know that they will. So you're not always going to be like hitting the most topical finger on the pulse type moment. You'll find you'll start building out your list of wants that you'll check off over time.
Hi, this is in reference to the suggestion that you had for uploading to Facebook too, alongside YouTube. So we are also a very small channel that works on documenting Indian recipes, and the recipes are not exactly the 30-second tasty style top-down camera. They are a little more elaborate and more meticulous. I would say 3 to 5 minutes for really long recipes, maybe up to 8 minutes. So what do you suggest? Should we upload that length to Facebook, or do you feel like Facebook is better for? Should we do another cut, a smaller cut for Facebook?
Yeah, two things. One, the way that Facebook's upload pattern works right now, it's actually really interesting. We'll sometimes upload the same video, or the long version and the short version, and then the version that has a subtitle on it once we get a subtitle to put on it, because Facebook users love to scroll through the feed and not have to have the audio on and still know what's going on. And so we upload sometimes the same exact thing multiple times in that way. Like, Do Teens Know 2000s pop punk music was uploaded like 3 days from each other, one with the subtitle, one not. And each of them got, one got 8 million views, one got nothing like 10 million views. And nobody in the comments, Facebook is smart to like figure out who it sends it out to, because it's really only sending it out to a tiny bit of your audience, and then people start sharing it with people that are not in your audience. Unlike YouTube, that if your audience is loving it, it starts telling it, the algorithm tells it to send it to more subscribers of yours on the homepage. Facebook just kind of like sends it out and it gets shared all over the place randomly. So right now, it might change, but right now you can upload it multiple times. In different versions, and I would suggest that you try different ways. You upload the full version. We upload, like most of these things have gone that viral, like Kids React to Iron Maiden that just went up last week. It's, how long?
How long is it? Oh, that's like 12 minutes.
12 minutes. Most of them are like 9 to 15 minutes long, and they are getting 20 million views. Facebook used to be known maybe as that a little bit of being like shorter, and that's what's gonna work. Definitely not, especially with what they're discussing, because like, Zuckerberg was like going crazy for live, but now he's obsessed with video, and that's why like ads are coming to Facebook very, very soon. And they are talking about watch time, just like YouTube, is going to be what's important, not the short video. So it's going to mimic similar things.
You should experiment a little bit, especially when you're smaller, because maybe you upload both, and maybe the short one takes off, maybe the long one takes off, but I would advise them both.
In the scheduling aspect of that, you could attempt a long episode followed by a short episode and have kind of like the trade-off back and forth, so you don't go too long without having, hitting that audience if they like the longer videos or the shorter videos.
Hi, I have a two-part question. First, what are the age of your viewers, and does that vary by topic? The second question is, your posting time, how does that relate to your peak time?
Oh, like what time of the day do we upload and stuff?
And then versus, well, is it right at your peak, or is it before your peak, etc.?
The demo is like on YouTube, it says 18 to 34 is around 65% of the audience. Then 13 to 17 and 35 to 44 are the same at around like 10 each. But we do think that like there's a little bit of that, kids use their parents' accounts kind of stuff. But generally, we do see that we have an older audience that I think what people have on YouTube usually, where they're 13 to 17 is really high. And then also the idea that all the content's going so viral on Facebook right now also kind of shows that the idea is an older audience that tends to...
We don't really program to a specific subset beyond thinking about, is this something that generally the young and older millennials will like, because that's the core, but is this something that a younger person's also going to aspire towards or relate to? And that's how you can keep being as longevity as we've had, because you can grow up with the show, but you also can be a complete adult and like the show at the same time. In terms of upload times, right, I mean, I can unless you want to.
Go for it.
Okay. The upload times, for the most part, are based a lot on a bit of paranoia, as well as the reality that we've uploaded at these times for a very long time. And so if we change it, it becomes a moment of, uh-oh, like, is this going to impact how it's going to get served out to the community, even if maybe a lot of people are now uploading at that time compared to the past. So, but everything's going well. We're tracking all the data, and the numbers are still up, so we don't change it. Though we have conversations a lot about, like, oh, you know, like maybe this would do better at a different time. And with the days that we now are uploading a second video on the same day, we're starting to experiment more, and we're seeing what is it like at night, what is it like in the morning, to try to predict that better. But
and the general idea is that we have 50% viewers US, 50% worldwide. So the 50%, so we cater to a US audience.
For the time zone release anyway.
Right.
Hey guys, thanks for all the useful information. You mentioned what an impact changing the thumbnail title can make on viewership. Could you give some examples of some of the tweaks you might make to a thumbnail or title that might help?
Yeah. Oh, you brought Vincent to talk about this.
Lots of things. Talking about a gross one, the try not to's, sometimes the images we put in it might be, if it's a try not to cringe, might be a little too gross for the audience. And we'll notice crazy unsubscribing happening just because people are like, I don't want that in my homepage. So we will potentially tone things down, and we'll see those little weird tweaks like, whoa, something's off with this one. It could be that the reaction is just not matching the type of content you're doing. So if you're doing potentially like some sort of like spicy challenge, if the people in the thumbnail don't look like they're crying or being tortured by
they're just like, nobody's going to want to click on that, you know? And we sometimes end up with it in there, and we go, you know what if that's a tweak? If we actually took the same person but found something that was different, that actually makes you more enticed to be like, oh, I wonder what's happening in that video. They look like they're in pain.
But it's also, the biggest thing I think though is realizing, look on your phone, and what does that thumbnail look like when it's really small on a phone? Because the mobile viewership is so high, sometimes you might be doing, let's say you do a Disney themed thing and you want to use the Disney font. The Disney font on a phone is much harder to read than a lot of other fonts. And so even as simple as that, like, it's a little easier to read, you can have a huge difference just because you can read it easier. Or you can, if you have a lot of things in your thumbnail, can you really identify what everything is? Because it might be overcrowded when someone's just sliding through. Versus, oh, let me just use 2 images so it's clear that it's Mickey Mouse. Versus all of the Disney characters in the thumbnail or things like that, because that mobile thumbnail
everybody has a different thumbnail template, so like we end up having one that we try to keep across almost any new show we even do, because it also resonates with the audience, that if they're scrolling through their feed, they'd be like, oh, if you do totally different thumbnails for different shows or a totally different thumbnail out of nowhere, they might not now think that that's you, even if they love you. So that's one of the things to just kind of keep there. But then, so in ours, we like have things of like, what's the topic image of like what we're doing that usually goes in the middle? And so we're always trying to think like, when the thumbnail's small, does it really relate to being like, that's an interesting thing to click on? The people on the side, and like, are those interesting reactions that you're wondering, what will I see in here? And I want to see what made that reaction happen. That's more interesting than just smiling. Space, that it doesn't make it too crowded, so the nice kind of colorful backgrounds that allow for it to pop out compared to other people's thumbnails that might be in the feed. And we tend to utilize text a lot too as another way. They might not want to read your title, so how do you put something text-wise in there to hopefully get them to be interested in understanding what that video is going to be about?
You can do some more research and like literally look through and be like, cool, what stands out to me? Like, don't look at your own content, look at other people's, see what things attract you, where do your eyes go, what are the things you notice when looking through it. If if you see something you're like, oh man, I really wanted to click on that, why? Take a step back and look at their thumbnail. It's always really helpful to look at what's out there.
Especially if you're a React channel, like you'll have clips of like other videos and stuff like that, and I'm just really wondering from a fair use or copyright stance, how much energy or time do you guys spend dealing with issues that come up from it, or just trying to get clearances, or like I realize with fair use you can just use it, but like how much?
Yeah, so it's a constant problem. Video is actually going to be DMCA'd within the next week. We get DMCA'd every few times a quarter, so that's, I think, also a misconception, like, oh, we can just do it. We deal with the same issues that probably any of you are faced with when you're utilizing fair use in various ways. So we're constantly dealing with the dispute processes on YouTube. In terms of how much time we spend on things, like we develop formats very specifically that us combined with intellectual property lawyers will have some conversations sometimes about like, where's the line, where is this going to make it more difficult, but we do definitely look at something and be like, is this fair use or is this not fair use, and we try to make that estimation. This is very complicated stuff, it's hard to explain in a quick answer, but it's not the law, it is a defense. So no matter what, even when you are buttoned up, even when you have all the right things in place, like the opinion letters that you have from attorneys that you get insurance against, which is what we have, you still are just as liable as anything else if someone wants to come after you and sue you. And using YouTube tools, they can take your video down, which happens a lot, but we just don't really talk about it. We kind of just go through the process, and we've often said, like, if someone wants to sue, then let it happen, and we're going to see what happens, and with the fair use defense, and that'd be a huge moment, because I think when it comes to fair use on YouTube, we're right up there on one of the top known things about it, so that would be a very interesting case that we think we would win. But hopefully it never happens though, at the same time. But it definitely, we deal with all the same issues that everybody else does. There's no difference, and it happens a lot.
Hi. I have a question about the comment spreadsheet that you guys have. Do you have ways to automate that, or does someone go in and like copy and paste his comment by hand? Since that would take a lot of time.
Yeah, it's manual, that one. But that's the thing, even inside of that 30 minutes that the producer does themselves separately, you kind of get a gauge. When you're going through the comments, finding the comments, and you're doing that kind of thing, you get a good gauge you can quickly looking through. But because we have a team, we're able to have one of their tasks be that, hey, over that first hour, and then check in a couple times during the day, they are allowing you to get that nice breath of like, okay, they're not definitely perfectly known as 150. It's more of like an estimation of what were the various things that were there. We try to have them add like 10 with each video of like, what were the things that you were seeing this time? But it's huge. Like whatever, you can just go there at the beginning of the video coming out, and then the end of the first day, and being able to look it over even just for 5 minutes, you're going to get a good idea of what was being suggested. So, all right, do we 100% have to wrap up? Can you take one more?
Last question.
One more! Yeah, you're awesome.
Oh, he's running over there.
Hey, how's it going? Hey, so as far as analytics go, do you guys have a department for analytics devoted to analytics and basically seeing the information on how each video is doing, or is this something that you guys do?
Yeah, it's currently it's in the very infancy. It's definitely that the company even being at 60, we pretty much do the jobs of like 150. And that's how we've kind of stayed competitive inside of these places where, a lot of companies are getting $100 million of funding. We're trying to compete with that somehow with being an independent studio. And so very much like, I'm obsessed. Thankfully I love data and I love number crunching and stuff, but it's been me and it's been a couple of others that we utilize that almost like outside of what we do day to day to really gather all that stuff, but we're starting to try to find even with research, it's been a thing where we're finding various places and various times, even for an hour from somebody here or an hour somebody there.
It's a shared task, and even though this live coverage stuff, it's training producers to give us the analytical data we need by being in the first 30 minutes of every video. So kind of a lot of the people are tasked for a small part of what they do to aid in this gargantuan task of trying to have real analytics, which we then do have. It feels like whoa, we have a ton of analytics, and it's because of the team all stepping in various ways and new processes being built.
I'd say the specificity we've been able to build out is because we have people that we're able to find, like, hey, to do these things in these moments and take part of their job and do that. But kind of in the same way of getting the comment suggestions, you really can get so much out of like just giving yourself 10 minutes here and 10 minutes there, even if you're by yourself, that you can get so much information. You just don't know what things you should worry about the most. Like, where's your drop-off happening in audience retention? The audience retention one is one of the biggest ones, especially with watch time now on YouTube being so important. It's kind of like television, where they used to go, okay, the commercial break, how many people came back after the commercial break? Is there a cliffhanger before the commercial break? Is there a bumper that says, like, coming up? So when you see in your audience retention all of a sudden that it goes down 20% at a certain point, which for the OG, after the watching sequence happens and everybody like is reacting and now we're into the questions, it goes down. And so we've ended up finding ways of figuring out how to be like, well, what if we tried this? What if we tried that to allow
our title sequences, if you watch in the last week, are now 2 or 3 seconds. Like, it doesn't, you don't hear the kids' voices anymore and kids react. It just quickly, 2 seconds you're in because we saw changes happen.
But if you, so looking at certain things, not like having such a huge idea of everything that's going on in analytics, it's certain things you just spend those 5 minutes on each of your videos and then get away and don't worry about it, but you'll get so much out of just that little bit of time. Cool. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much.